Choosing the right packaging materials for your packing, for your removal, is really important if you're going to be doing the packing yourself. So what we've decided to do is put together a video that just shows you some of the packaging materials that are available, and show you the ones that you should be looking at choosing when you're packing for your removal. This is Rob Baldwin, the removals manager of Nomad International, kindly agreed to help us with this video. And so we're going to start with boxes. When you're choosing to pack your own boxes, fragile items into boxes, the most important thing to consider is that the boxes are thick enough. They have to be double walled. I'll just zoom in on that. 2 layers of cardboard there is absolutely critical to make sure that the box is strong enough. Boxes of course come in different sizes. We've got a couple shown here. This one has the arrows pointing, showing which way up. Not absolutely essential. Slightly larger box. You can get boxes in a variety of different shapes and sizes. The key thing is with all of them that they're strong enough. You can use boxes that are second hand as long as they're not too damaged, not water damaged. The key thing is that the rigidity and the stability of the box. Thanks, Rob. Next thing to consider, of course, when you're packing fragile items into boxes is tissue paper. We've got 3 types here. The first type is traditional craft paper or butcher's paper. This is really the only one you need if you're packing the boxes yourself. Traditional butcher's paper bunches up really nicely, has a bit of give in it. It's ideal for packing fragile items. Nice to haves are tissue paper. Any professional removal company will have this. It's obviously a lot finer and thinner. Again, it's a nice to have. It's useful for packing very fragile items. And thirdly, you can get acid-free tissue paper. And this is ideal for packing silverware, where you don't want the acid from the paper to leach into the silverware and damage it. It's also very useful for assisting with the packing of oil paintings, but not entirely necessary unless you're packing anything like that. Another nice to have if you're packing the boxes yourself is void fill materials. This is an example of Pellispan. Very useful. Again, professional removal companies will have this. We use it occasionally just to fill up extra space in boxes where we have particularly fragile items. Most of the time, even professional removers will just use tissue paper because it is the best thing for the job. But it's handy to have that as well. Another possibility, if you like, when packing boxes is to wrap the smaller items in foam. Again, we only use this occasionally, but it's handy. We're doing so much wrapping. It's handy to have it. Occasionally we'll use it if you're packing fine, small ornaments and things. But again, you can do just as good a job with tissue paper. And we'll have another video showing exactly how to do the fragile packing. The other thing that you might consider using when you're packing your own boxes, which is obviously very easy to get, is bubble wrap. Again, we prefer tissue paper when we're packing fragile items into boxes, but bubble wrap can be very handy as well if you want to wrap china and glassware in it. This is obviously just normal bubble wrap. We prefer the small bubbles rather than the big bubbles. There's just smaller spaces between them, does a better job. Okay, the final thing that you would need when you're packing your own boxes is the tape. And then we've got a few different kinds of tape. Obviously, the brown tape would be the one that you would use, the one that we use when we're taping up the boxes. Just because it's brown and it looks the best. We use a stronger version than normal, but tape can be very expensive from normal manufacturers, so if you want to use a cheaper one, it's fine as long as it's sticky and seals the boxes. We also use white vinyl tape for when we're using white wrapping products, again, just because it looks better. But it's not necessary for your own choice. You can also obviously get tape with the word fragile printed on it, which can be quite handy if you want to identify boxes that are particularly fragile. Okay, now moving on. Clothes that are in your wardrobes can be, there's a very useful tool that you can use, which are wardrobe boxes. Instead of folding up your clothes, you can just hang them straight into these wardrobe boxes. You can get these from any packaging supplier, and they're very useful. Here we've got one already assembled. And if Rob just tilts that forward, you can see just in the very bottom, they actually are quite long. So at the bottom, below your clothes, there's space to put blankets or shoes, that kind of thing. So they can be very useful. The other thing they can be used for is in wrapping furniture. They can assist with that. We often disassemble the wardrobe boxes, cut them apart and use the long sheets of cardboard. They can be very useful, but we'll cover that in another video. Right, now I've covered all of those things. How do you wrap your furniture? Again, we'll have more videos on this, but in terms of what products to use, the gold standard is this FerniSoft. It's a Jiffy product. Also comes in a type called FerniGuard. We find the FerniSoft is very, very good. It's got a plastic layer on the outside, a fabric layer on the inside that goes close to the furniture, and then right in the middle, a layer of bubble wrap. It is the gold standard for wrapping any furniture products, and it's the one that we use by far the most. If you don't have FerniGuard, which is also sometimes called bubble blanket if you're looking for it, bubble blanket. If you don't have FerniGuard, you can use bubble wrap, but we would recommend using at least 2 layers of bubble wrap. And if you're going to use bubble wrap, make sure you wrap it really tightly, and often we would actually recommend using a layer of plastic outside the bubble wrap as well. To save all that hassle, use FerniGuard or FerniSoft or bubble blanket. And as Rob's got there, one additional thing you can use, this is a nice to have, not essential, corrugated cardboard. Another very good product. We find it useful for fragile or very brittle things like terracotta pots. Combination of corrugated cardboard with blankets is the best for them. Again, not essential, but it's a nice to have, and any removal company will have that on stock. So the last thing you might consider, again, this is a nice to have, are corner protectors for your furniture. Very useful to have. They can obviously they just go onto the sharp corners of objects, give them a bit more protection before the FerniGuard goes on. So that covers all of the main products that you would use for wrapping and packing to do your removal yourself. Now we want to cover one type of item that we prefer that you don't use, and that is plastic crates. You see these very, very commonly. They're fine for storage, terrible for transport. They look great and they look really sturdy, but they're useless for transport. We find people often use them, and we'd really like people to reduce the amount that they use them. First of all, the lids tend to be very brittle, and they often crack during transport. Despite looking sturdy, they're actually not. There's no give in the plastic, very, very little give compared to a cardboard box. So the whole thing is very brittle, and it passes, any vibration force will just get transferred directly to the items within it because it's so brittle. You can't seal the edges properly, so they're not airtight. There's a whole lot of different problems with them. This one is a particularly sturdy one. You can get a lot worse than this, but even this we would really recommend people don't use. Use the products we recommend, don't use plastic boxes. So this has been our first video on packaging. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll have a lot more to come.